The champagne glass in my sister's hand was shaking so hard the bubbles were spilling over her knuckles. "Tell them, Dana," she hissed, loud enough that half the launch party turned to look. "Tell them whose idea this book really was. My name is Dana Whitfield, I'm 32 years old, and for most of my life, my own family looked at me the way you look at furniture you inherited but never wanted. Useful, maybe, but never worth admiring. Welcome back to Cherry Revenge Tales. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. And if you believe in justice that's calm, quiet, and served with a smile, go ahead and like this video and subscribe before we get into it, because this one still makes me smile. 1 week earlier, I sat at my parents' dining table holding a manuscript I'd spent 4 years writing, and nobody at that table asked me a single question about it. "Pass the potatoes, Dana," my mother said, not even looking up. My sister Claire was mid-story about her latest promotion at the marketing firm, gesturing with her fork like she was conducting an orchestra. "Honestly, I don't know how I do it all," Claire said. "Between the Hendrix campaign and mentoring the junior associates, I barely have time to breathe." My father nodded like she'd just described curing a disease. "That's my girl, always climbing." My father topped off his own wine glass without offering the bottle to anyone else, and launched into a story about a golf outing with his business partners, the kind he told at every dinner with slightly different numbers attached to deals he'd apparently almost closed. My mother laughed at all the right places, rehearsed as ever. Nobody asked how my week had gone. I mentioned, quietly, that my publisher had scheduled the launch party for the following Friday. My mother blinked at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. "Oh, is that still happening?" she asked, in a tone that suggested she'd hoped it might have quietly cancelled itself. Claire laughed, not unkindly exactly, just carelessly, the way you laugh at a child's drawing before you put it on the refrigerator out of obligation. "A little memoir," she said. "That's sweet, Dana. Not everyone needs to write the next bestseller. Some of us are just built for bigger things." I didn't argue. I never argued. I finished my potatoes and thanked my mother for dinner, and I drove home in silence, the kind of silence that isn't empty but full of every year I'd spent being the quiet one, the plain one, the one who colored inside the lines while Claire got applauded for coloring outside them. Growing up, Claire got the piano lessons and the debate coach and the summer abroad program because Claire showed promise. I got hand-me-down instruments nobody had the patience to teach me, and a library card, which turned out to be the better investment, though nobody in my family would have admitted that. Every accomplishment I had was quietly filed under luck, or under Claire's influence, as if I'd absorbed whatever small successes I managed by standing close enough to her. I used to believe that if I just worked hard enough, quietly enough, eventually they'd notice. It took me until my 30s to understand that some families don't ignore your effort by accident. They ignore it because noticing you would mean admitting they'd been wrong about who deserved the spotlight all along. The manuscript wasn't a little memoir. It was called The Weight We Carry, a book about growing up invisible in a family that only had room for one golden child. A major publishing house had picked it up after a bidding process that took 3 months. My editor, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Priya Okafor, had told me during our first call that the manuscript was, in her words, the most honest thing I've read in a decade. I hadn't told my family the advance number. I hadn't told them much of anything. I'd learned, somewhere around age 9, that anything I built could and would be picked up, admired for a second, and then quietly claimed by someone louder than me. That Friday, the launch party filled a private room at a downtown hotel, soft lighting, a wall of my book covers stacked like bricks, 150 people who'd actually read early copies and wanted to talk to me about it. My parents came. Claire came too, in a dress that cost more than my first advance check, and for the first hour, she smiled and mingled and let people assume, without correcting them, that she was simply the supportive sister. Then Priya took the small podium to introduce me, and something in Claire's face changed. "Dana's story," Priya said into the microphone, "started 3 years ago with a single email pitch that stopped me in my chair. I remember reading the subject line, a story about being the one nobody claps for, and I knew immediately this was something special." Claire's champagne glass came up too fast. "That's not," she started, then caught herself, laughing too loud, the kind of laugh people use to paper over panic. When Priya finished and the applause settled, Claire crossed the room to me with a smile stretched too tight over her teeth. "You need to fix this," she whispered, gripping my arm. Tell them the concept was mine. I gave you the idea, Dana, at Mom's 50th. You know I did. You basically stole 4 years of my life and put your name on it. I looked at her hand on my arm until she let go. I never said that, Claire, I said quietly. You're going to say it tonight, she said, her voice climbing. Because if you don't, I will tell every single person in this room what you're really like, how you've always been jealous of me, how you probably made half this book up just to make our family look bad. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for me? People are going to think I did nothing with my life while my little sister, she said little sister the way some people say vermin, gets a book deal off my back. My mother appeared at her elbow, nodding along like a metronome. Your sister's right, sweetheart. It would mean so much to her if you just gave her a little credit. It costs you nothing, my father added, low and firm, the way he used to talk when he wanted a conversation over. Family helps family, Dana. Don't be selfish about this. You've always been like this, Claire pressed on, sensing an opening, her voice dropping into something almost pitying, which was somehow worse than her shouting. Even as kids, you'd rather sulk in a corner with a notebook than actually engage with people. It's honestly a little sad that this book is probably the most interesting thing that's ever happened to you, and you can't even share the credit for 5 minutes. Do you know how that looks, Dana? A grown woman who can't let her sister have one thing? I could have raised my voice. God knows I'd earned the right to. Instead, I felt something in me go very still, very clear, like a lake freezing over in a single night. I'm not going to say that, I said, because it isn't true. Claire's face went red in blotches. You ungrateful little, after everything I've done for this family, you're going to embarrass me in front of everyone? You think anyone here cares about your little sob story? You think you're special because some publisher felt sorry for you? Her voice was climbing toward the kind of volume that turns heads across a room. You've always been jealous of the fact that I'm the one people actually want to be around. I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice to match hers. I simply reached up and tapped twice on the side of my smartwatch, a small, practiced motion, like adjusting a bracelet, and the screen pulsed once, silently, as the voice recorder activated. I'd started doing this months ago, ever since a gift exchange at Christmas had turned into Claire trying to return a necklace I'd bought her and blaming me for the receipt going missing. I'd learned that with my family, memory was a battlefield, and only evidence survived it. Say it, Claire said, stepping closer, jabbing a finger toward my chest. Tell them the truth. Tell them I'm the reason you have anything at all. I already know the truth, I said, so does my publisher. That seemed to snap something in her. Fine, she spat, loud enough now that the room had genuinely quieted, glasses lowering, conversations dying mid-sentence. You want to play innocent? Let's talk about the advance then. Let's talk about how you're sitting on more money than anyone in this family has ever seen, while Mom and Dad are drowning in credit card debt because of the restaurant. You owe them, Dana. You owe this family. Either you give them a cut of that advance right now, publicly, so everyone can see you're not some heartless little snob, or I will tell every editor and journalist in this room exactly what kind of person you really are. The room had gone fully silent now. 150 people, phones lowering, waiting. Behind Claire, the event screen still showed the countdown the coordinator had put up before the toasts. 11 minutes until the room's contracted time expired and the next crew was due through those doors. I set my glass down on a passing tray. My hands did not shake. You want me to hand over part of my advance, I said, in front of a room full of journalists, because you're embarrassed that a book about being overlooked accidentally proved its own point. A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. Claire's mouth opened and closed. That's not, you're twisting my words, she said, but her voice had lost its certainty. Priya stepped forward then, unhurried, her tablet already in hand, her expression perfectly neutral. The way people look when they've done this exact thing 100 times and feel nothing about doing it again. Actually, she said, since this has come up publicly, I think it's worth clarifying for the record, since several journalists are here. We do keep full correspondence on file for every acquisition as a matter of publishing policy. With the countdown ticking down behind her, 9 minutes now, she tapped her tablet twice, and the podium screen, the one that had been playing a slideshow of the book cover, switched to a projected email thread. This is the original pitch email Dana sent me, 3 years and 2 months ago, Priya said, her voice flat, procedural, entirely unbothered by the tension in the room. Time-stamped, sent from Dana's personal address, with an attached outline titled, "The Weight We Carry, Early Draft." There is no other author, co-author, or contributor listed on this project at any stage of development in 3 years of correspondence between Dana and this house. The room read it in silence. Someone near the back murmured, "Oh my God." Claire's face had gone from red to a strange, waxy white. "That doesn't," she stammered, but there was nothing left to grab onto. My mother's hand slowly slid off Claire's shoulder, the way you step back from something that started to smoke. That's when a hotel event coordinator, alerted by hovering staff, approached with a security guard trailing behind him, both entirely unbothered by the emotional wreckage in the room. "Ma'am," the coordinator said to Claire, calm as a weather report, "we've had 2 noise complaints and this is a private, contracted event. I'm going to need you to either lower your voice significantly or step outside." "Do you know who I am?" Claire snapped at him, and I watched, quietly, as several journalists in the room actually started typing. "I know you're being asked to step outside," the guard said, unmoved, and something about his complete indifference to her outrage did more damage than any accusation could have. My father tried, weakly. "This is a family matter, we don't need." But Priya cut in, still calm, still procedural. "It became a public matter the moment your daughter announced it to a room full of press. She wasn't unkind about it. She simply wasn't moved by it either, and that, more than anything, seemed to be what broke Claire completely." "You did this on purpose," Claire said, rounding on me, tears finally spilling, mascara streaking. "You planned this. You wanted to humiliate me." "No," I said, "you did that yourself. I just didn't stop you." My mother turned on Claire, hissing under her breath. "You told me she stole the idea from you. You said you had proof." And Claire shot back, I thought she'd back down like she always does. She always backs down." And just like that, in front of 150 witnesses and at least 3 reporters, my family's carefully maintained hierarchy came apart at the seams, each of them scrambling to blame the other, my father staring at the floor, my mother's hands pressed to her mouth, Claire sobbing into the sleeve of a dress she'd bought to outshine me. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice, not once, the entire night. I simply turned back to the small crowd still watching, lifted my glass, and said the only thing that felt necessary. "You said I owed this family everything I have," I said, looking at Claire, my voice even and clear enough to carry. "But it turns out the only thing I ever owed anyone was the truth. And tonight, I finally paid it." The applause that followed wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was the quiet, sustained kind, the kind that means people believed you. Here's what I want you to take from this, if you take nothing else. The people who claim your work, your worth, or your piece the loudest are usually the ones who contributed the least to earning it. Boundaries aren't cruelty, documentation isn't paranoia, and staying calm while someone unravels in front of you isn't coldness, it's the clearest form of self-respect there is. You don't owe anyone a performance of gratitude for things they never gave you. You don't have to raise your voice to be believed, and you don't have to shrink yourself to keep the peace in rooms that were never peaceful to begin with. Protect your work, protect your name, and when the truth is on your side, let it do the talking. Thank you so much for watching this one all the way through here on Cherry Revenge Tales. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and if you haven't already, drop a comment down below and let me know where in the world you're watching from tonight.